So in order to complete the square, all this means is we're putting something into vertex form. So I already showed you this, but I'm going to write it again. So we're going from standard form so that's standard form, and we're going to put it into vertex form. And I'm going to give you 4 steps for this. So the first step is you want to reduce the first 2 terms. If possible. You're going to see with the first few problems, we're not going to reduce anything because it's not going to be possible. I want to get you used to the method first before we start reducing. And then the second step is going to be, you're going to take b, and we've talked about b before plenty of times, and divide it by 2, or take half of it. So I know this question might come up as I'm already doing the problems, the examples, and it usually gets asked, why are you dividing by 2? It's just always going to be by 2. You're taking half of it. That's just the rule. It's never going to be dividing by another number. And then whenever you divide by 2, you're going to square that number every single time. Step 3. That number that we get at the end of step number 2, you're going to add it in the parentheses. And you're going to subtract it on the outside. And we're doing this in order to keep the equation balanced. So this step is very important. If you decide to go and look up completing the square and watch another video or something, you need to make sure that you're watching the process where it's being added and then subtracted. There's some steps, and it is possible to do addition on both sides, but that's not how it's going to get tested. So that is not how I want for you guys to do it. So make sure that there's addition and subtraction involved in it if you're going to decide to go look for more videos on how to do this. Like always, I am going to post this for you to see if you have questions over it. And then the last step is going to be to factor the trinomial. I'm going to show you a shortcut for this. This last step is going to be should be really fast. Inside of the parentheses. I can't talk. So I'll give you a few seconds to finish writing that, and then we're just going to go ahead and get started on the examples. If you're done writing that, I'm going to write number 1 just so that you can write it down. Okay, so the first step, and I didn't write this on the steps just because it's part of number 1, but I always want for you to put these 2 in parentheses every single time. And again, this is a method that you have to use on your assignment. If you use another method, it's going to be counted wrong. You have to do completing the square. So first step is reduce those 2. So if there's a number in front of the x squared, you need to reduce it no matter what. This one is just 1x squared, so we can skip that step and move on. Step 2 is you're going to take b and divide it by 2. You're going to see me do it on the side. I want for you to do it. So b is -4. And if we divide it by 2, that gives us -2. You're probably thinking, why do I have to write it if it's just a simple division? Please do it, because when we get to number 4, step 4, you want to just look at this and come up with your final answer. You don't want to get confused and go back. So after you divide by 2, it says you're going to square this number, which means to the power of 2. And no matter what number you have here on the inside of the parentheses, whenever you square a number, it's always positive. So this is going to be positive 4. If you plug it in to your calculator or decimals and getting negative 4, that means that you're not using parentheses, and that's very important. It is going to affect your answer. So we're done with step number 2. Step number 3 is you're going to add this number that we just got, the 4. You're going to add it on the inside of the parentheses. So this is what that's going to look like. So I still have x squared minus 4x, but I'm going to add the 4 in here. And I still have the plus 3. And we're going to subtract the 4 on the outside. So the red is the original, and then in blue I put addition on the inside, subtraction on the outside. And we're done with step number 3. The last step, you're going to factor the trinomial, which is this right here in parentheses, and then you're going to simplify what's on the outside. For this one, for number 1, I'm going to do X method, but then after that, I'm no longer going to do that because I'm going to show you where the trick comes from. But if we were to do X method, so just write it down for this problem. I'm just going to do it really quickly. So I'm doing the parentheses, so A times C, that's 1 times 4, which is 4. B is negative 4. So 2 numbers are multiplied to give us positive 4, add up to give us a negative 4. That would be negative 2 and negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 gives us a 4. Negative 2 plus negative 2 gives us a negative 4. So we write this from the bottom to the top. That's x minus 2 and x minus 2. So with completing the square, this would always happen if you do X method. You're always going to get the same number on both sides, which means you get the same little parentheses. And since we have it twice, you can say that that's the same thing as x minus 2 squared. So I want to show you where this comes from before I tell you the trick. So this right here, this parentheses, is the same thing as x minus 2 squared. This number here on the inside, the one that you squared, that's where you're going to get the shortcut from. This is the number that you use to factor. So you don't have to do all of this right here. So this is going to be x minus 2 squared. And then so we factor that, and then the simplifying comes from 3 minus 4. So that's going to be minus 1. And that is your vertex form. So whenever you do your assignment, I do need to see this right here. And then even though it's really simple division, squaring, I need to see this on the side because I need to see where you're getting your numbers from. This I don't need to see because I've shown you the shortcut. So any questions before I keep going, before we keep doing more problems?
So the X method and what you did on top is basically just the same thing to get the same answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is the same thing. You can just look at this and you'll see number 2 because I'm no longer going to do this, all of this right here. Just wanted to show it to you so you can know where it comes from. If you do forget that this is a number, then just do X method on the side. Number 2 is going to be x squared plus 16x plus 71. And I told you want to put parentheses around the squared and the x, which is the first 2. And the x squared is still 1x squared, so there's no reducing. We're going to reduce on number 4. So there's still no reducing here. So I'm going to do my steps on the side. I'm going to take b, which is positive 16 divided by 2, which gives us 8. And then I'm going to square that number, which gives us 64. So 64 is the number I'm going to add on the inside, subtract on the outside. And that's going to look like this. plus 64 here, and minus 64 there. And last step is to factor and simplify. So like I said several times, we're no longer going to do X method for this one. I'm just going to look at that number in parentheses, and I'm going to use that to do the shortcut in factoring. So since it's a positive 8, that's going to be x plus 8 squared. And then if I do 71 minus 64, that's going to be a positive 7. So that is our vertex form. This next one you'll do on your own. And the quizzes is going to ask you 2 questions. The first one is going to be, what number are you adding on the inside? So for number 2, the answer would have been 64. So that's the one we added. So here we have x squared minus 2x minus 5. And if for some reason you don't have everything on the same side, if you have an equal sign, then you have to move everything to the same side before you start going. Okay, so we take b, which is negative 2, and divide it by 2, which gives us negative 1, and then we square that number. Remember, this is always going to be positive. Negative 1 times negative 1, which is what negative 1 squared is positive 1. So we're going to add it on the inside, subtract it on the outside. So we have plus 1 here, and then minus 1 here. Then to factor, we use this one for the shortcut. So this here, the parentheses is going to become x minus 1 squared. And then negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. So that should have been your vertex form that you chose. With the next ones, you're going to see us reducing at the beginning. And it's pretty much the same thing. There's just one difference at the end. So for number 4, we're going to start off with 2x squared plus 36x. So I'm actually going to start it off like this, so you can see it like this first. So you want to get everything on the same side. I didn't put that on the steps, but that should be what you do when factoring, which is what we're going to end up doing in this problem anyway. So the 170 needs to go to the other side before you start doing anything. So this is the equation that we're going to use. I'm not going to put it is equal to 0. You can if you want to, but I'm going to leave it like this. So if I put parentheses around the first 2, I still do that. But now we have a number that's in front of the x squared. So anytime there's a number in front of the x squared, you have to divide by that number. It doesn't matter if it doesn't reduce evenly, you still have to reduce by it. So we're going to reduce by 2. So I'm going to put the 2 in the front. And that's going to become x squared. 36x divided by 2 is going to be 18x. It is very important that you do not reduce the 170. Only the 2 inside of the parentheses. And then from there, we just keep going like we have. So b is going to be 18. And if we divide it by 2, that's going to give us 9. If we square it, that's going to give us 81. So we're going to add it on the inside, subtract it on the outside. And this is where the other difference comes in. So I'm still going to do plus 81 minus 81. So instead of just going straight into simplifying, the factoring is not going to change. But this 81 here, if you took out a number at the beginning, in this case it was a 2, you have to do the 2 in parentheses at the end. So that's the only thing. If you have a number here in the front that was taken out, you have to put it here at the end. This is still the factor number. So the 2 is still there, and this is, since it's a positive 9, that's going to be x plus 9. And then whenever you simplify this, you can just plug it into decimals, and I'm going to show you real quick what that looks like. So I already have it here. We had a 170. I'm not going to put a plus sign in the front because it's just positive. We have a 170 minus 81 parentheses 2, which gives us a positive 8. So that positive 8 is going to be like that. And that's it. That's the only difference. I've mentioned how this method is tested on the ACP, and usually the problems that you get from the ACP are a step problem where you have to say what is the step that's wrong, which we've seen some of those. And this is usually one of them. They'll leave it like this, and you have to just know that the 2 is missing there. So just keep that in mind, because like I said, that's why you have to see this method instead of just going from the axis of symmetry. You have to see this actual method because that's how you're going to see it. Any questions? You're going to try number 5 on the quizzes. You're going to get the 2 questions. Which one do you add, and then the final vertex form. So we have 2x squared plus 6x minus 1. But there's a number in front of the x squared that is not 1, so you have to reduce. So make sure that you're doing that first. Okay, so before you guys answer the next one, I'll do this part. So you have to reduce by 2 because that's what's in front of the x squared. And that's going to give us x squared plus 3x minus 1. Then I'm going to take b and divide it by 2. So 3 divided by 2, I'm going to leave it as a fraction. So it's going to stay 3 over 2. And then if I square this, that's going to give you 9 over 4. So that is the number that you're going to add on the inside. That's what you should have selected. So that's going to look like this. So plus 9 over 4 minus 9 over 4. And since we have a 2 here in the front, that 2 needs to go here in parentheses. Okay, so this is our factor number. And it is positive, so this is going to be x plus 3 over 2. And then if you plug all of this into your calculator or decimals, that's going to give you negative 11 over 2. So that is your vertex form. Number 6 I'm going to do with you, and then number 7 you'll do on your own, and that'll be the last one. So that is number 6. We need parentheses around the first 2. And there's a number in front of the x squared, so we have to reduce by negative 6. This is going to be x squared, which is what we want in every problem. And then negative 12 divided by negative 6 becomes positive 2x. We take b and reduce it by 2. So b is 2 divided by 2 is positive 1. We square it and we get positive 1. So we're going to add that on the inside and subtract it on the outside. So plus 1, minus 1, and we cannot forget the negative 6 here. And last step is to factor and simplify. So this is a factor number. And this one turned out to be the same as the one that you add. That's fine. So it is a positive 1, so we're going to do x plus 1. The squared is always on the outside of the parentheses. And then if you plug all of this in, exactly as you see it, that's going to give you a negative 7. And that's the vertex form. So I'll do this part before we continue to the next part of the question. There's a negative 9 in front of the x squared, so we have to reduce by negative 9. And we get x squared plus 18x. B is 18, so we reduce it by 2, which gives us a positive 9. Square it, which gives us an 81. So that's the number that you're going to add on the inside and subtract on the outside. So that's going to be plus 81 minus 81, and we need the negative 9 in parentheses. Okay, so this number is the factoring number, and it is a positive 9, so that's going to be x plus 9. If we plug all of this into decimals or into your calculator, you get a negative 2, so we have minus 2. That is the vertex form. And then for the vertex, majority of you missed this one, and it's because of the x value. So you have to remember for the vertex, the x is always going to be the opposite. So this is a positive 9, so this is going to be negative 9. And then the negative 2, whatever this is on the outside stays however it is. So that's going to be negative 9, negative 2 should have been your final answer here.